Welcome to Conversations with Cox and Kielseth, and to be more specific, that is filmmaker Alex Cox and myself, film curator Pablo Kielseth. Alex will join us by phone from his home in Oregon, while I sneak away from my office to call him from one of the projection booths used by the International Film Series, which has been screening foreign and independent movies at CU Boulder since 1941. We will keep our chats to about 20 minutes as we discuss whatever movie-related topics grab our fancy. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
Alex.
How are you?
I want to let you know that today I was reading about the death of a bluegrass fiddler by the name of Byron Berlini, who contributed instrumental selections to Bob Dylan's soundtrack to Sam Peckinpah's 1973 Pat Garrett and the Billy the Kid.
How interesting.
Yeah, it looks like he also...
there's no credit to the musicians on the album, is there?
Well, it looks like he also sung some uncredited background vocals on Knocking on Heaven's Door. So there's that. But speaking of uncredited, thanks for the segue. When in terms of uncredited screen action, I think you felt that when we touched on Franklin Schaffner's, also from 1973, just like Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, Papillon, we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago, that you felt that we were remiss in not bringing up Dalton Trumbo, since he both helped write the script and has an uncredited acting spot within the film. Do you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, Dalton Trumbo, who was a CU alumnus,
yes, indeed,
was a Hollywood screenwriter who was one of the people seized by the House Un-American Activities Committee in 1947, and you can actually see his very brief testimony before the House Un-American Activities Committee. You can find it online, and it's very entertaining. He testified briefly and very amusingly, and got blacklisted as a result. Wrote for many years under a pseudonym, got his name recognition back in 1962, I think, with Exodus and Spartacus. Wrote the script for Lonely Are the Brave, which is a great Western, one of the greatest Westerns. And then, bringing us up to date, 1993, almost yesterday, CU renamed a water feature on campus, the Dalton Trumbo Fountain.
That's right. It's next to the UMC and just west of Chem 140. Right.
That's right. And it was dedicated. In fact, I think you were probably at the dedication, weren't you?
Sadly, I was not there in person, but Bruce Kawin helped organize that, who is a former colleague from the Department of Cinema Studies. And Kirk Douglas was there in person. Yeah,
Kirk Douglas came to dedicate the fountain because Kirk Douglas was also a real good Hollywood leftist, and starred in Lonely Are the Brave. So anyway, I just thought we should mention we lost it because Franklin Schaffner was the director of Papillon, and I just thought that was our opportunity to give a shout out to Dalton.
Sure. Well, Dalton attended CU Boulder for 2 years. I think it was 1924, 1925, and he also worked for the Daily Camera as well as the campus newspaper and the It's Humor magazine, which I think my dad worked on as well, and a yearbook. And then he was actually born in Montrose, and then I think his family, like maybe 3 years after that, went to Colorado Springs, which is where you're going to be flying into in September to celebrate our audio gurus big event that's coming up.
Yes, indeed, but not Colorado Springs. Where am I flying into Grand Junction?
That's yes. What I'm sorry. I meant to say Grand Junction. Yep.
Which is right next door to Fruita, which is where the animatronic dinosaurs are.
And I think Fruita's also got the claim to fame for the Mike the Headless Chicken, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, we're going to have a great time. Hey, Hey, but I've got another credit issue for you from that Bobby Dylan guy. You know, Rudy Wurlitzer, the screenwriter of Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, he claims that he is the co-author of Knocking on Heaven's Door, which he says that he and Bobby Dylan wrote together on a flight from Durango to Mexico City in 1972 or 73. So that Dylan, huh, man, he don't give credit where credit is due.
I think, I get, it was probably a little more freewheeling back in the early 70s, maybe. Oh, and I should, speaking of the early 70s, I should mention that I found out today when I was just kind of like looking around that, you and I have, we've touched before on the Dalton Trumbo, Johnny Got His Gun, and
yes,
which he not only did he write the script and the award-winning book that it's all based on, but he also directed that.
Yes.
And that is actually available to watch for free on YouTube. And it's never a bad time to see Johnny Got His Gun. So
yeah, I've never seen it, but I will now.
It makes interesting use of black and white for his time as a soldier, and then it does these sort of the flashbacks go to color. So you get you have an interesting cinematic palette there. But there's just honestly, with Dalton Trumbo, I was trying to, the one that I've never seen, there's quite a few, but one that I've never seen that I thought might have been of interest to you was, I think Executive Action was one of his, it was second to last to.
Oh, he wrote that. That's right. And it was directed by David Miller, who directed Lonely Are the Brave.
Right. Yeah. And I've never seen that one. And I know you've got, because that's a JFK related thing, isn't it?
It's one of the first movies. It's the first dramatic movie that posits a conspiracy to murder the president. And it has, as I recall, it has Burt Lancaster and Robert Ryan as the conspirators. One of them is the head of the CIA. The other one is a Texas oil millionaire. So it's quite a credible conspiracy. It's not a very good film. It's a bit of a plodding film, unfortunately. It doesn't have the energy of the Oliver Stone JFK movie.
That's too bad.
But it was the first dramatic feature to deal with the Kennedy assassination. And certainly compared to horrific pieces of garbage like Parkland, it's really worth watching. Dalton Trumbo screenplay, David Miller, the director.
Why not? Let's see. I'm looking in the mailbag. Looks like I got an email from Nick Reed. He says he's been enjoying our banter and likes the topics that we've been, selecting. He wants to admonish us with only 2 complaints. He says our episodes aren't long enough, and 2, that we should do an episode on trailers. Now, at this point, I should mention that Nick is not only a good friend, but also someone who he's cut some absolutely amazing custom trailers for the IFS.
Ah, okay.
And if anyone out there is listening and they need some help with, someone who's got amazing editing chops, and you need a trailer made, I would only be too happy to connect you to Nick, and you'll be glad that I did. Now, as to the length of our podcasts, I got to say, I've listened to several movie podcasts out there, and they run the gamut from a half hour to 5 hours per episode. And I personally, I feel, and I guess I never told you this, Alex, but I guess I kind of decided to take the somewhat poetic approach to limiting our podcast to around, 20 minutes or so, because that's basically the length of a full 2,000-foot reel of 35 millimeter film.
Wow.
Yeah.
How portentous.
As to trailers, I think we can touch on that. I mean, obviously, given the brief amount of time and it deserves its own, its own segment probably. But I think it was last week when I brought up the work of Pablo Ferro, who was both a title designer and he also is the maker of just a ton of great, wonderful trailers. I forgot to mention in our podcast last week that he actually got singled out for praise by Stanley Kubrick. And here, I did go back to that Sight and Sound mag issue because I did want to quote. It says, and this is again, quote, Kubrick granted Farrow full reign to create the trailer for A Clockwork Orange from outtakes. This 1-minute marvel is a creative high point in the field. Clockwork condensed into a 60-second brain barrage, end quote. Well, now that's their wording, 60-second. And then to add one more quote, Kubrick himself told Farrow that, quote, it's better than my film. So I think it's a rare moment of Stanley Kubrick actually giving high praise to someone else for possibly having improved on his work.
I think, though, that they're entirely different things. I mean, a 1-minute trailer and a 2-hour feature, I mean, that's like comparing a chirimoya with an elephant,
Oh, well, sure. But I mean, again, I'm just giving a nod to some what I thought were exceptional trailers. And Pablo Farrow's one for Clockwork Orange, which you can see, which is a minute long, is out there. There's another one that I've always thought was absolutely just top of its class, and that's a banned, unreleased flash image trailer for The Exorcist, and it's under 2 minutes long. And it's out there. You can watch it on YouTube. I used to have a trailer for it, and I love to bring it out. It's not if you at all suffer from epilepsy, you don't want to watch it. And I think that might be why it got banned, along with it's just so unsettling. And on a completely random note, I'll add that I just happened to see a trailer last week, and it was for Being John Malkovich. And at this point, I want to give a tip of the hat to Jim D at the Palm Theater in San Luis Obispo, California, because he sent me a box of trailers. And so I've been enjoying watching some of these vintage trailers. And this theatrical trailer for Being John Malkovich, it actually cribbed the theme music for Terry Gilliam's Brazil, which was appropriate, but it was not something that I remembered from back in the day, What about you? Are there some trailers that stand out for you, Alex?
Not really, because it's a completely different art form. I mean, I long ago thought, hey, I'm the director of the film, I can make the trailer too, but it's a completely different skill. It depends on, it's so different from making a feature, making a trailer. That you need, like you say, you need someone who's a skillful trailer maker, and that's just another line of work entirely. So what I know about trailers is that if you're looking for stuff for free, if you're looking for film material in the public domain, trailers are going to give you access to shots of John Wayne and Henry Fonda and Audrey Hepburn and Clint Eastwood and many other popular movie actors and clips from films, because any trailer made before 1964 is in the public domain and was never copyrighted. Trailers and indeed other works published before January the 1st, 1978 are in the public domain unless they contain a copyright notice, which most trailers do not, or didn't then. And it gets even better, because trailers published without a copyright notice between 1978 and March the 1st, 1989 are most likely public domain as well. So if you're looking for material to include in your movie, like they're watching on TV or they go to the theater. When we made Searchers 2.0, we had a trailer fest, and so when they go to the cinema in Monument Valley, they're watching trailers for Italian Westerns. And because they were all public domain, they were copyright free.
That's great.
And so that's what I know about trailers, is if you want to have a good time and use found footage completely legally, but from Hollywood films with Hollywood music, Hollywood movie stars, trailers are the way to go.
I'm gonna add one thing here, which is that before the pandemic, when I would go to the multiplex to watch a movie, not only do they pollute the space with commercials, audio commercials, while you're sitting down to find a seat before anything starts up. Then they have all the PSAs, and they're all commercials, for Coca-Cola or whatever. And then when the so-called trailers start, they're still peppering in commercials throughout the trailers, and the average length of trailers before the feature, I think it was like 18 minutes. And when I was wondering if the multiplex would be cowed by treating its customers so poorly that after the pandemic they might, clean things up a little bit and treat their customers better. But I went to see A Quiet Place 2, and lo and behold, more commercial PSAs than ever before. And the time spent watching trailers was like 24 minutes. So now here's the thing. I love vintage trailers, and I love the work that like Nick's done with his trailers. And in fact, he has an excellent trailer. There's a couple versions out there for Bill the Galactic Hero that he did, and he did one for you, and it's phenomenal. It's got the Iggy Pop soundtrack to it, and I think people can check that out. But I'm talking about modern trailers. One of the things that I really hate is the fact that they cluster their genres. So if you go see a horror film, you only see horror film trailers, and so you don't get a mix of anything. And then there's a sameness to them, and especially because they're modern, and there's just I feel like it's like a sausage factory. But what I actually and again, I just want to shout out to Jim D, because that the boxes of trailers that he sent me, these vintage 35 millimeter trailers, all over the board for every possible kind of movie, whether it's Life of Brian or Antonioni's The Passenger, or on and on and on. But they feel so unique, and they're so different, and they have so many different sensibilities and styles, and they're a joy to watch. I could actually watch vintage trailers from sunset to sunrise, no problem. But it's when the multiplex forces me to watch these inane modern trailers for 23 minutes before the feature, and it's just, it's a different experience.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's outrageous. I mean, I try, if I'm going to go to the movies, I always try and get them to admit what time the film's really going to begin.
We'll see if anything changes. I'm actually going to go to see, going to see a movie tomorrow, and I'll count how much time they burn.
What are you going to go see tomorrow?
Well, our options were limited, but it's the first day that I've been able to get Meredith out to a movie theater since the pandemic, and the only thing that she wanted to see out of all the different things being offered was Cruella. So we're going to go check out Cruella. Yeah, it's it's I'm gonna go in with an open mind. I've got no expectations. There's a few other things I was kind of hoping might be playing there, but they weren't. So.
Hey, and thank you for sending me that link, because you sent me a link to Fox News. And it was really great. It was like a huge plug for the Loft in Tucson.
But I also sent you, this is thanks to the film listserv that I'm a part of, but I also sent you that JFK, so that's not a trailer, but it was something that got dropped in as an intermission message, I believe, right?
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
That's actually another topic altogether, is the way that filmmakers can treat, when they have a long movie, the different ways they can treat the walk-in music, which is, put on the film for the projectionist to run while people are walking into the theater. And my favorite example of that would be 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, they had a long ligety or something that played.
Yeah, and there's different approaches to that one, but I feel that really long walk-in music, as well as the at the beginning, as well as in the intermission, that the right way to do it is to have the theater completely dark, so that the screen is actually just, you have the projectionist and he's got black leader running through the projector. And if the audience is focused on the screen long enough, seeing all that black leader, they might make the mental connection between the obelisk and the screen, which is a black obelisk on the horizon for them. And I think that's one of the best walk-in or the use of black leaders for walk-ins ever. So,
yeah.
anyway, my 2 cents. And wonderful. Well, we'll pick this up next week. And thanks so much for joining.
Excellent. It was a great pleasure.
Yeah.
And we'll speak more.
All right. Sounds good, Alex. Talk later.
All right, man.
All right. Ciao.
And cut. Okay, that's a wrap.
Thanks again for joining Alex Cox and myself today. I'd also like to thank Jason Phelps, who provides our audio support, and Ted Thacker for permission to bookend our conversations with excerpts from his song, The Ballad of Slim Cessna. If you'd like to email us with any suggestions and or comments, you can send those to pablo@internationalfilmseries.com. Again, that's my first name, Pablo, at internationalfilmseries.com. And don't forget, the best way to fall in love with movies is to watch them on the big screen, with extra points for sainthood if you support your local and independent community art house theater. That's where you'll always find the real magic.